Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead.
It's interesting for me, because I've been sitting in this room since September the 1st, 1984. And the 37 years. And this place has sucked more money out of me than any bad investment I've ever had made.
Well, I can imagine. It was easy to buy this shit.
Oh, fuck yes. Very easy to buy.
Yeah.
And
but to keep it alive.
Our kids don't look at it that way. Kelly was born here, blah, blah, blah. Our boys started their education here, and they just all love it to pieces.
How many gardeners do you have? How many gardeners do you have? Because
5.
everything is
5.
perfectly manicured.
5.
5. Full time, huh?
No, part-time driver, part-time window cleaner. No, this is not an Austrian deal. Full-time. And they're great. They're great kids. I mean, some people have been here a long, long time. But when I look around and I see you guys smiling, and you look at the Napoleon chandelier and blah, 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 all the fucking money.
How long did it take to that painting?
That painting was started in 1986. It was finished in 1987. Normally, and Howard Morgan, who just recently passed away, world famous portrait painter, normally 20 to 25 sittings. And the sittings are between 5 and 6, 8 hours each. I did it in 3 sittings, 7 hours each. And Driller, who was a real dog, they had to fly down to London, and because he sat for the painting when I didn't. So they went and got a homeless guy, and they put my coat on him and my boots on him, on this guy, and I'm told I wasn't there. Driller kept looking up at the guy, and it smelled like me. And so he had a few more sittings than I did. But that's how I pictured myself before I bought this place. I was going to be the lord of the manor, running around being a gentleman farmer. There's no such a thing as a gentleman farmer. There isn't. And that painting won the international something portrait painting in 1987 as the most something painting in the world. And but Howard Morgan passed away now. But I mean, it cost quite a bit of money. But that's how I pictured myself, vis-a-vis the affirmations and goals we talked about yesterday and today. I always saw myself strutting around, and here we are. And the Napoleonic chandelier, and a lot of the other antiques and special things that we have here are very special. Not just because they cost a lot of goddamn money, but because they're from different dynasties in Europe, Habsburg this, blah, blah, blah. But the kids just look at it, fuck, a painting of Dad and Driller, I know they know who Napoleon was, but it's just because it becomes their social and economic milieu. It becomes their background. Just as you're, unfortunately, a product of your background, and I've beaten that to fucking death, but now you have a chance to change the background and the social and economic milieu of your kids and your grandkids, if you choose to do so. But money's not everything, but it's the only thing anybody keeps track of. But if you fuck it up, you can fuck up your kids and grandkids with money. It's a different kind of fuck up than when you're poor, but it's still a fuck up. And there's not a happy balance, but you have to do the best you can to do it right. And that's why I recommend the books that I do vis-a-vis raising kids. There's no book to raise adults that's worth the shit. So I don't recommend one. Because, once we're adults, it's only by a miracle that somehow we change. And I had a lot of miracles happen to me, and that's why I say I'd rather be lucky than smart. I've had, even though a lot of bad things, happened to me, but I mean, mostly good things, especially about making money. And I've met a lot of extremely important, influential people that rightly or wrongly like me, and Nazi people, to name one. But my painting traveled the world for 2 years, Russia, South America, as one of the true artistic discoveries of the 80s. But that depicts very much how I feel, or I felt before I had any money. And that's what affirmations and goals are not all about, but that's part and parcel. I mean, I thought I was hot shit, to use a vulgar New York term, way before I had a fucking dime. Way before. And that goes back to, I've always had self-esteem. And again, I say it for the 20 or 30th time, I had no idea what a special commodity that was. And especially when I started coaching. Because there's a lot of guys on Wall Street, there's a lot of guys in the oil business that have self-esteem. The oil business is the last bastion of gunslingers, the Wild West. And it's interesting, who did Warren Buffett pick to succeed him as CEO? You probably don't know. An exploration guy from Canada, a gunslinger. Shoot first and ask questions later. That is who is going to run Berkshire Hathaway when he's gone. So he picked the last universe of people that, are what made America, what made Europe great. Shoot first, ask questions later. And again, Sally and I are hoping to go to the Berkshire Hathaway meeting that's coming May. But I'm the luckiest guy on the planet that somehow through business I found Sally, and we've been happy a long, long time. Other questions? Yes, sir.
More of a comment, really. One of your speakings is somewhere along the line. You spoke of really thinking of yourself of having unlimited limits to your abilities. Mm-hmm. Good, bad, indifferent, doesn't matter.
Correct.
And I really took that to heart, and it's done me well, and maybe you could speak more of that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things I told Brian Rose in 2014 when I bullied my way onto his program, be interviewed the first time, is, and it's still online, what if you were fearless and you weren't afraid of anything, Brian? Okay, and then the conversation went on, and he asked me vis-a-vis the other high performance people I've had the privilege of being around, and the few I've been in business with, and I said that almost all of them believe, act, fiercely, that they have no limits to their abilities. And we had some discussion for 2 or 3 minutes online. But I've always believed that, and because I've been around a lot of super high performance guys, and a few gals, not as many gals as guys, but a few. And but I've always thought that, and because as I've said ad nauseum during the seminar, normally, a vast majority of the time that we decide not to do something, after overthinking it too much, is because we're afraid. Anybody that says that that's not true is lying. We're just afraid. And I know schoolyard fights aren't vogue anymore, but from the schoolyard fight to when a guy gets promoted again above you, that he doesn't deserve it, You don't go to, well, most people don't go to the managers, but why in the fuck did you, well, you don't say that. Why did this guy get the job instead of me, blah, blah, blah. You don't do that. You wait for the next promotion, and the next promotion, and the next promotion. Because one, if you cause a stir, notwithstanding HR, human resources, and all that crap, you might get fired. Or, what's worse, is you get shoved aside and ignored. Better you're fired than shoved aside and ignored. And most of the high-performance gals that I've known over the years, my 50-year career, have been shoved aside and ignored. They would have been better off being fucking fired so they can go out and do something else. And so I realized that not just, Brian Rose and those kids that follow me, that if you have no limits to your abilities, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You don't get promoted, you get passed over, you get fired. None of those things are life-threatening. They may appear life-threatening because, how am I going to pay my rent, blah, blah, blah. But remember I told you earlier, it's not the people that get fired that ruin a business. It's the people that don't get fired. So in the reverse corollary, some of you should have been fired, not decades ago because you're not old enough, but years ago or months ago, and you'd be in a better position now. My alligator mouth is almost always overloaded my hummingbird ass. So I've been fired from 3 big positions, not the least of which one is when I was thrown out from the company that I founded. Not just unlike Steve Jobs, etc. Of course, those hurt, those situations hurt. But if I hadn't been fired, and I'd been kept by the Kuwaiti government in the Great Western instance, I probably would have stayed because I'm a loyal guy. I wouldn't have left them in a lurch. So they did 2 things. They let me cut my contract, and they let me sell 20 million shares of a public company that was worth a lot of money that stood me in good stead. Nobody felt sorry for me when I got thrown out because I got thrown out a fairly wealthy guy. So, if you act as if you had no limits to your abilities, in today's world, they call that cocky. They call that arrogant. And there's a lot of words that describe that. But then it's your task, it's your job to perform. And most people today, this room included, they don't mind trying to perform, but they don't want to be held accountable for it in case they fail, in case they slip. And for the most part, I haven't slipped. I've had some big fuck-ups in my career because in the cosmos of time, they're not a fart in the wind. 25 years from now, or when the Martians take over, nobody gives a shit about those things. But most of the things that people worry about, suffer over, as Josh Kim said 2 or 3 years ago, online, sitting right here, I think in a chair, all the stuff that I worried about, and Mr. Peña said, don't worry about, 95% of it never happened. Never happened. So getting back to your original comment is that when you act as if you had no limits to your abilities, while they'll think you're cocky, they think you're a smart ass, etc. Now, you can't walk on water. I'm still working on that myself. You can't walk on water. If anybody walks on water, it's going to be me. But, aside of a few things, and I'm still working on breaking up a loaf of bread and feeding 3,000, and I'm still working on turning water into wine. But other than that, I pretty much can do anything. And that's why 3 of the 5 biggest sovereign funds in the world have seen to call on me, and I've had some relationships that are pretty much unbelievable. But I work at it. I try to not step on my dick in my old age, mainly because I probably break it off at this stage of my life. But I enjoy more than probably that I should admit, and we're getting back to limits to your abilities, seeing you, Anelli, Andreas, the pig fucker, and various others do this shit it's unfucking believable. And Marcus knows some of these guys. Now, I'm not going to ask him to comment on YouTube how stupid he thinks some of them are, but they're not all rocket scientists. That's the goddamn truth. And when you have somebody in the group that has witnessed these guys over 10 years, that have gotten significantly wealthy, it's fucking unbelievable. Now, I always knew the system worked, but it's taken me all these years to convince other people through you vicariously that it works. Because people discount it when I make something happen, because well, I'm not Dan, I don't have the communications, blah, 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 blah. But you saw people this week, 15 of them maybe, not being derogatory about them, but fuck. They're not Moses, rocket scientists, super salesmen. Well, one of them was a super salesman, Thomas. You saw it with your own fucking eyes. And if you didn't take away from that, of course, this is why I do it. Fuck. If he or she or it can do it, why not the fuck me? And that's why I show them. We could have the whole seminar, just webinars, but I don't believe that to be as effective. I'm sure when I'm gone, somebody will get access to all the webinars and charge you $42 billion, and he will have nothing to do with me or my estate, and tell you we have 1,100 success webinars from the dearly departed Dan Peña, and then they will be bastardized and sold and resold. But we have a lot of successes. We've been privileged and blessed to have a legitimate success with this week, Marcus, and Marcus knows me long enough that I don't blow smoke easily, but he has, I'm proud of him. But he's here because he wants to be more successful. You aspire to be at his success level, but he's here because he wants to be more successful, and I'm sure he will be. I'm sure he will. That's a long-winded answer to your question. Okay, any other comments or questions? Yes, sir, in the back.
Have you ever seen someone buy themselves out of a hole? Meaning they're in a bad spot and they bought either a great deal or they got themselves out.
Oh, yeah. But that normally, there's a price the devil charges you for that. And when you bring in, I've seen many equity players save dipshit investments that you've made. But then they own you. Directly or indirectly. They own you. And and for the most case, they're not that onerous until you want to exit. Then they remind you, normally through covenants and agreements that you've signed or your lawyers have signed to save you, that makes it pretty unattractive. But even, except for, I know a couple of you have got some money, but except for Marcus, you're basically starting from ground zero. So you got 100% of zero right now. So I wouldn't be so cheap, tight, or whatever the right word is. 50, 60, 70% of a big pie, it's pretty dramatic. And you saw some great examples today. And all these guys, I think Peter was the only guy that actually articulated it. He wanted to give back to me because I helped him. Thank you. But he's rich. I wouldn't want him up there blowing bullshit like a lot of the, and I'm not knocking the other gurus, but if you ever did a fact check on these other guys, as I have, it's all bullshit. And now, since I started coming up with numbers 7 or 8 years ago, starting with the $50 billion man and now the $1 trillion man, everybody's gone quiet on numbers. I don't know of anybody, I could be wrong, and I'm sure YouTube will correct me if I'm wrong, that talks about numbers now. And if they do talk about numbers, it's revenue numbers, not equity numbers. And there's a lot of smart marketing guys out there. But whether top line, I'm a believer in, but if you don't turn top line into equity, then you're pissing in the wind. In the whole model, not the whole model, but a majority of the model, the QLA model, is to turn it into equity, and ultimately equity you can pull out and spend on yourselves. Remember, you don't mind eating last as long as you eat most. That's really important, because some of the deals, and I know Marcus understands this, some of the deals are going to be fucking tight and even non-existent for you, meaning you can't pull any money out. But at the end of the day, you still own a majority of it, so you will ultimately be able to pull out money. But when you need money yesterday and you can't pull out money today, it can be very problematic. But the model works. Goddamn, the model works. I have a TV interview in London next week. I'm still looking at the 3 contracts vis-a-vis TV programs and etc. And again, I tell you unashamedly, I'm pleasantly surprised at my age that I still generate that interest. But part of the reason I generate that interest is because the world's fucked up. They wouldn't be coming to an old man, 76 years old, notwithstanding I'm in a castle, if they weren't fucking desperate for product to help kids. Because most of the product doesn't work. Or it works in a temporary fashion. There's very few of the products that work long term. I've been around a long time. A couple of the guys, the old guys in the room, not that old, but I mean the old guys in the room, I've been around almost 30 years. If they had looked hard enough, if they were worried about it 20, 25 years ago, you could have found me. The 66-year-old guy who's now 69 years old, who's crushing it with over 30 deals. Can you imagine, now Marcus can relate to this, a guy 67 years old, in 2 years doing 32 deals. That's humping. That's fucking humping. And he's having fun. He's proving his grandchildren wrong, his children wrong, I don't know if it's his first wife, but his wife wrong, that he's still got fire in the belly. And it gets down to the kids that are the most successful still have fire in the belly. In my case, my belly's bigger, but I still have fire in it, as I exhibited during the seminar. And I still feel passionately that it's my duty, when you pay me, to get you across the fucking goal line. And I will still, not like I used to, slap you, hit you, but I will do everything humanly possible to make sure you get across that goal line. I believe it's my fiduciary responsibility. I take a man or woman's money to teach them how to get across the goal line. And you saw that buffalo that kicked and prodded that one buffalo to get up on its legs, and that's me. I'm not a soft sell kind of guy. But but now it's up to you. Another comment. Yes, sir.
If I may, it seems like the core kind of baseline of the QLA method is, one, to just take 100% responsibility
Correct.
for your condition.
For your actions.
And then from that, really create the belief and the desire within yourself to achieve what you really want to achieve.
Correct.
And from there, it's all details.
that you shouldn't get bogged down in. Correct. And those of you that can stay at the macro level will succeed more. Some of the guys are focused on the minutia will seem to succeed in the beginning. But the guys that have the macro, Concord's 60,000 foot view are the long-term guys that make the most money. And God knows, and the names that, Anelli is this, is incredible. He's not the only one that's incredible. But we got a lot of incredible, probably Peter, vis-a-vis who you are, is the most incredible. Because Anelli's a ball buster, But Peter, God love him. He is the embodiment of the average guy or gal. He is the fact that he's Hungarian is just, but he's the embodiment of just a regular doofus guy. And you heard the words come out of his lips. I was desperate. And if his wife didn't come along, then divorce. He put it all on the line. Of course, now she's part of society, I'm told, of Hungary, whatever that means. But you saw it with your own fucking eyes. You may be able to discount Josh, a child prodigy, a Michelangelo at 20 or 17. Okay, he wasn't. You may be able to discount a lot of the other people you saw. But fuck, Peter's just a regular shit. 30,000 euros a year. I didn't know you could live on 30,000 euros a year. Just a regular guy. That finally, there was a movie called Network back in the 70s where the anchor news guy got up and said, I can't take it anymore, I'm fed up. Well, Peter was just fucking fed up. He couldn't take it anymore. Now, some of you, not just in this group, but some of you have been in a position you you can't take it anymore. You look at your parents and life and blah blah blah, and then he went out and fucking did it. It's incredible. You'll discount Thomas. He's more or less world-class salesman. Not world-class, but he's a super salesman. And so you discount that. And you discount Josh for whatever reason. You discount this person or that person. But I don't know how the fuck you discount Peter. He is you. I don't know how you can bullshit yourself into believing that he's something fucking special. He is special in my mind, because I've seen him do it. But I don't see how you possibly, under any set of circumstances, can lie to yourself and say that he is, an Einstein or this or that and the other thing.
Or Andre.
Andre, other than you're fucking just delusional. And of course, Andreas is ein, zwei, drei, vier. Boom, boom, boom. He is Himmler marching in the square. And God love him. And he's a rich Himmler. He's just by the book. Everything's by the book. And I'm proud as hell. Peter, I have nothing to do with other than I'm his mentor. Andreas, full disclosure, I've been his chairman, and I'm proud to be his chairman. And of course, I told you about the first board meeting. Nothing went right. From the umbrellas breaking, we went to the wrong fucking building. Everything fucking went sideways. And I kept on thinking to myself, and it kept on, when his umbrella broke, one thing. But when my umbrella broke, and we're 11 blocks away, I just looked over at him. I took a deep breath. I've been there before, but he's just going, I don't know who he was praying to. Maybe Hitler himself. But how the fuck can this happen to me? And then when we got to the meeting, and we're just soaked, you know. And we got through it, and then on top of that, he had just had to change the agenda because I told him I didn't like the parameters that we had set up for him to govern. I thought they were too tight and they would restrict him, which the German board had a problem with, but they were convinced in the end. And now, you know, a year and a half, 2 years later, of course, they all realized now, in some instances, when you give the CEO or the founder that much latitude, it's a license to steal. Up to 10 million euros in his case. But he didn't do that, and I believed he wouldn't do that. And the German board wanted to believe he didn't do that, and so he didn't do it. So it's been a big success story. But you've seen all these stories, and they're not stories, they're for real. I'm sure I will get, in the next few days, emails from YouTube that you're all actors, and can't you get better actors? And they'll say, you had a black guy this time, that's good, where'd you get him? You know, because some seminars, we don't have any black guys or gals, and it's unbelievable, these guys, if they spent a tenth of the amount of time they do trying to prove me wrong and trying to be successful, but they don't. You know, they're naysayers. Other question? Well, if you're going to let me go to sleep early, that's fine. Sally will be happy. And again, I have 3 contracts on my desk. I started to read one, and then I got tired, and I said, fuck it, I'm not going to read it now. I'll wait until you guys leave. But for me to have 3 contracts for movies and shit like that at my age is pretty extraordinary. But see, for me, normally they find an old git and they'll make him famous, make him rich. Well, I'm already rich and I'm already pretty famous, so I will bargain or negotiate from a different stance with these guys. Because if I never do a movie, if I never do a TV series, although my ego would like to, I don't really give a fuck, you know. And unless that we can do it my way, I'm not interested. So we'll see how it goes. But this is my 7th or 8th and 9th exposure in the last 6 years to show business. And I've turned all the others down. So we'll see how we go with these. But I would like to leave, you know, some mark. And I would like to do something for my Mexican heritage. But most people look at me and I'm no more Mexican than you are. You know, not just because I don't look Mexican. They say, well, Dan, you're rich. And you've been rich a long time. You don't know how it is at the other end. Well, that's bullshit. I used to be at the other end. The fact that I haven't been there in 35 years has nothing to do with it. I don't agree with, and I don't want to get into Afghanistan and all that shit, but I don't agree with bringing all these people here. But when I run for office, and I will, and on the 12th of this next month, I'm a UK citizen, I'm going to start beating up motherfucking drums, you know, and I'll probably be banned. I'm banned from almost everything now, but I'll probably be banned from the rest of the shit. But I would love, in my dreams, to be in Prime Minister's Questions and duke it out with anybody. I don't give a fuck. The guy from the Liberals, Boris, Nicola. I want them to bring Winston Churchill back to debate with me. I will eat them fucking alive. And then if I have to run, I'll run to Austria, and where I will help make Marcus king, the last king of Austria, and
It's going to be the first one again.
Oh yes, exactly. Other questions? Yes, sir.
How long do you think the U.S. will dominate the world in terms of the world currency? Do you think that's
2031?
Say that again.
2031.
2031.
11.
Very specific.
So 10 years.
Well, it's kind of like the slide I showed you the asteroid may hit us in 2042. The primary reason, even though Trump faked that he would default, etc., the primary reason that the U.S. Currency has been the currency of last resort is, one, they've never defaulted during all the shit. And number two, the world realizes, even the Chinese realize that if the U.S. currency defaulted, it would restructure the whole monetary system on the planet. And so, although when we went off the gold standard in the 70s, and I was in finance then, I thought naively, well, fuck, the basis of our currency is going down the toilet. One of the primary reasons I used to be against BitFuck is there was no basis. But either the US dollar, it has no basis either. But the basis for BitFuck is the following. Notwithstanding the Chinese have just banned it, but it's early days. But getting back to the US dollar, it is the currency of comfort for decades. It will take a great deal to shake that loose from comfort. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's one of the least things I worry about. Sally and I are almost 100% in cash, which I've said many, many times, and we split it between 3 and 5 currencies: the dollar, the pound, the Swiss franc, and the fourth currency varies, occasionally the euro, but never any of the Asian currencies. And right now the pound has fluctuated and the dollar has fluctuated from roughly 136 to 140 to 1. And we convert at 140, and when it gets down to in the 120s, late 120s, we convert back. That's the only trading we do. And in Canada, we've made quite a bit of money doing that. But the dollar is comfortable in the Middle East, in South America, drug cartel, almost everybody. The dollar is comfortable. I believe that if Biden continues, and I wish him all the luck, I pray for him and his family every night as current president, but if things continue the way they're continuing, I believe that, as I said before, Trump won the first election, he will win in a motherfucking landslide, and it will send the world in a tizzy. Because everybody's saying that now the American politics is back to normal because they're trying to do international things and get along with everybody. Well, as soon as Donald gets back in office, because however he gets back, rightly or wrongly, the rednecks, whoever votes him in, it will send shivers. One, because he's going to drop out all these fucking accords that Biden signed up for again, and he'll get even. And I have no inside information. And when you're the president of the United States, you can do a lot of good things and a lot of bad things. And he will shake a lot of economies.
Amen.
Pardon?
Amen.
Yes. And again, full disclosure, I knew him in a different life. And again, Danny, are you really, I forget the whole sentence. Is it true, I hear that you're going to try to teach poor people how to be rich, or along those lines? And I still remember our 2 sons looking up at me in the elevator, not knowing what the fuck Trump said. I said, yes, Donald, that's true. And he kind of laughed. Good luck, he said. Again, guys, I have not taught you anything that's a mystery. Remember, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Just because you never heard it in university, and I've talked to some of the best schools on the planet, and they all look at me, it doesn't mean it's not true. It doesn't mean it's not true. What else? There's a question in the back of the room? Yes.
I just wanted to ask you, how easy or difficult has it been to be accepted by the UK aristocracy?
Fuck. Oh. It's been extremely difficult. And I gave up worrying about it about 15, 20 years ago. But in Britain, money talks and bullshit walks. I've been so overwhelmingly successful in the British system. I have some respect. The financial people, accountants, lawyers, and the people you'll be dealing with, for those of you that are here in Britain, I've got a lot of respect for what we do. But there's still naysayers that believe, where's the equity coming from? And, you know, but I stopped worrying about it a long, long time ago. And again, I tell you not to worry about it. That's easy for me to say. I'm living here and you're in a fucking, $800 a month apartment. But you have to hold your nerve and stick to the, what you've learned and your beliefs. And then little by little, as you gain successes, you'll believe more in the system. But I mean, not many people say it as strongly or vehemently as Thomas. You gotta believe. But that fucking kid has done. If he hasn't had God's intervention, he's had something else. I mean, Marcus and I were talking about it on our one-on-one tonight. And Marcus knows, because he knows a lot of people. But I mean, he has done a fucking super phenomenal job. And again, not dissimilar that I did, but it's been 35 years. And he's just knocking it dead. But he believes more than it's pretty apparent he's a believer. It's pretty fucking apparent he's drunk the Kool-Aid. I mean, it's not a secret that he's drunk the Kool-Aid. Yeah, Marcus needs another drink. The more I talk about his competition, he needs another drink. But I love Marcus because he's competitive. Marcus will overtake a lot of these guys. Maybe all of them. Because he's still got fire in his belly.
I'm gonna sign that.
What?
I'm gonna sign that, everybody.
Okay.
Not some.
Okay. And even though his six-pack isn't what it used to be, but I mean...
It's gone.
It's gone. Okay, it's gone. Okay. And guys, I mean, because the money's out there. Marcus and I, when we were discussing one-on-one a couple hours ago, 3 hours ago, I mean, he's out in the trenches. And people are knocking down his door, more or less, looking to give him money, right? Yeah. And once you get on the track, I mean, they'll be doing the same for you. You've heard, Anelli and these other people. Andreas played it down because that's the kind of guy he is. And Peter didn't really talk about it. Of course, that was a year and a half ago when he talked. We're going to get him here, hopefully this year, if not next year. And a lot of these guys are more low-key, but the results are all the same. They're all pretty fucking rich, by most standards. We're gonna try to get Roberto. And Roberto's not the best guy I've got. He's the best guy I've got that will talk to you. So my goal for the next couple of years is to flip some of the billionaires. But we've got a lot of guys, and I'm fortunate. Now, at my funeral, which is no time soon, or, in theory, we could have thousands of people there, But that's too late. I want them while I'm still alive. But that may be too big a stretch. But other question? Yes, sir.
Do you think, just like global warming, which is cyclical, do you think the snowflake society is also cyclical?
Yes.
We're going to come.
We're going to go hit the bottom, as with most of the dynasties, and we'll spring back and we'll go the other way. It's like when you stretch a rubber band, when you let it go, it snaps back too far back the other way. I mean, we're going to go back, but I mean, it could be hundreds of years. All of us will be dead by now, our progenies. But as I said in the beginning, all great civilizations started with one thing in common: slavery. And they went downgrade from slavery to wussy, and then I'm okay, you're okay, and then they snap back the other way. I probably won't live long enough to see them snap back, but many of you in this room will live long enough. But even when it snaps back, the economy is in our favor. The money is, and I don't want to talk to you about the acceleration of money and this and that. But remember, every dollar is deposited in a bank worldwide, depending on the statutes and they have to lend out between $20 and $45 for every dollar they bring in. For every dollar that comes in, between 20 and 40 bucks have to go out. And that's working in your favor toward the end of the year, which we're at the end of the year. The more banks the more trouble we get in during the black swan, which I believe with all my heart is going to happen. Just remember, they have to put the money back out. And during economic tight times, they're a little tighter in putting the money out. During economic loose times like we have now, they're just putting the money out almost, not willy-nilly, but almost willy-nilly. But we don't need the money to go out willy-nilly, because our cash flow, even on the shittiest deal we do, covers debt service by 1.5 to 2.5 to 3.5 to 4 times. How else does a teenager like Josh Kim become a multimillionaire with $1 million race car and planes? How? I mean, it doesn't. Now, some people say it's an anomaly because it's America. That's partially true. That's partially true. But we've got the 15-year-old from Atlanta, Georgia. He's an American. Currently, the last real multimillionaire rich kids, and I showed you the picture, 13, 14, from Australia. But it's possible. It's possible. I mean, of course, the key then is, how do you keep the kids 13 to 15 to 17 on the railroad tracks with great difficulty? Because if you remember when you were 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, you did a lot of dumb shit. And I speak from personal experience. I did, for every 3 decisions I made, at least 2 were bad. It doesn't take away from the model, but it's ugly things can happen when immature human beings get a hold of enormous amounts of money. Now, I know you'll let me get a hold of enormous amounts of money, Dad, and let me make my own decisions. Well, I've seen that before, and a lot of them, not most of them, but a lot of them end in flames. But I'm happy for you. Anything else, kids? Yes, Mr. Greek.
Mr. Peña, the photo of the hands. I'm just wondering, I haven't Googled it. If I had, probably I would.
Oh, you mean the photos of the hand?
Yes.
Okay. Guys, put your left hand up. Okay. The gals sent pictures too, but not because I asked, but you sent them anyway. If you look at your left hand this way, and this finger, your first finger, this finger here, is shorter than this finger, yet taller than this finger. Everybody follow me? Okay, that is a DNA test that you have more male testosterone, aggressive testosterone, than females. Everybody got me? This finger is shorter, this first finger is shorter than the middle finger, yet taller, this finger is shorter than the middle finger, and then this finger is slightly taller.
What does that mean?
That means you have your male testosterone.
What means if mine is like that?
Pardon?
If mine is like that?
Well, I mean, that means you have balls. But it's not measured against women's testosterone. But, you know, we get our testosterone from our mothers. Do we all know that? We get our testosterone from our moms. If you're bald, it's because your mom's bald. Either somebody in her family was bald. And so when I'm looking at your files, you know, I look at
Does it match up to the success?
yes.
What about yours?
Percentage of
Mine is, they're not deformed, but they are. I have high testosterone, but my testosterone levels, although I've been criticized, the average testosterone of the guys in this room are between 300 and 700.
Is that good or bad?
No, I'm about to tell you. 300 to 700. 700 is considered high testosterone. 300 to 400 is average. I have an extra rib. I have the Neanderthal rib. I have a 13th rib. And that's why Brian Rose says I'm a Neanderthal, but the Neanderthal's brains were 20% bigger. Okay? He wasn't telling me as a compliment. My dad had a 13th rib. But my testosterone has always been high. I'd rather be lucky than smart. And with that combined with my slow twitch muscles, I'm a slow fuck. And for those of you that are hair triggers, just dream. Punjab, don't laugh. You know who has there's been studies.
Yeah, I know what you're
Indians.
Gonna say. I know what you're going to say, but I'm Punjabi, remember?
But you're still Indian. Yeah. Asians have the shortest triggers.
If you're ever in need of extra money, you could sell your plasma on the internet.
Yeah. But a 13th rib, and I didn't check my testosterone probably until I was 50, but and maybe I'm wrong, but that probably equates or relates to a high energy level. Just as I can, when I was your kid's age, I could drink a fifth of whiskey like I didn't drink. A full bottle of alcohol.
full bottle.
Full bottle.
Are you sure you're not from Punjab?
Well, I have blue eyes, so I mean, so some of the genetics. But the men in my family, the oldest has only been 94, but the woman in my family, late 90s, early 100s. So one of my goals is I want to be the first guy in my family to reach 100. And most of the guys in the families live only till the middle 90s because they get shot in somebody else's bed. Now, Sally has a leash on me, so it's not likely I'm going to be shot in anybody else's bed. Are you there, Sally? Good, she went to bed. And I'm pretty physically fit, although I'm about 10 or 15 pounds heavier. I blame it on Corona, but it's really not Corona, because I work out every day. But I like to drink and I like to eat. And those of you kids that don't understand this, when you get older, I mean, you can't burn up calories like you could before. You just can't. You wish you could, but you can't. And I'm going to tell one story and then I'm going to leave. When I came back from the military, I had not seen my mother or talked to my mother in 4 years. And I drove up to her house. I drove from Fort Dix, New Jersey to California. And she was just getting home from work. And she was just before her 50th birthday. And Mom, God, you've gained weight, were the first words out of my mouth. And she said, I hope to God I'm alive when you turn 50. Meaning the caloric burn off isn't the same. And she was alive when I turned 50. And burning off calories. And he's only 38. It will be harder for him to burn off calories when he's 50. And you just don't burn them off the same way. That coupled with the fact that normally by the time you're 50, you've got more money, you can spend more money on yourself, you drink more, you eat more, you travel more. So it's a deadly combination that I wish all of you have to suffer from vis-a-vis the money and the time. The challenge is as you get older, when you make more money is you don't want to work as hard, which Marcus and I have discussed over the years. And right now I'm only probably working at 50-60% efficiency now because, I'm not as hungry, but I'm hungry for you. But just imagine if you had to live vicariously through the other guys in this room. It's a fucking thankless job because you're more worried about the success than they are. On that happy note, kids, good night. Have a safe trip back. Nice seeing you again. Marcus? Okay. Young lady? Thank you very much. See you tomorrow. I know you. Punjab.
Thank you for everything, sir.
Okay.